Yes, I think obviously being the research agency that does the research, my general impression is that this is a reflection of what's happening in the market. You will probably know that as researchers we work with statistical principles. One of them is margin of error, where we say we know, we're not in heaven. Things may not be 100%, but we do not allow error of more than 5%. In other words, if we report results and say this particular organization is used by 20% of Zimbabweans, the truth of the matter could be that it is being used by 22% of Zimbabweans or 18% of Zimbabweans. That we understand. So as long as the figures we quoting are not far off from the truth by 5%, that is acceptable. So from that principle, we stand by results that we received. My other impression is from the user side. I get the impression that there are some, not all, and they are minority, but they tend to, remember many of them are media people. They are minority, but they tend to have a voice. So if they come, they know what they are doing in their company, that is very good. And from other research they do, they probably get feedback that they are good. But the point that is consistently missed is, when it comes to media section of the study, we are capturing viewership, we are capturing radio listenership, we are capturing newspaper readership. And here's the problem. Somebody who does not buy a newspaper, somebody who does not have a radio, somebody who does not have a TV, when asked whether they listen to the radio or watch TV or read the newspaper, they will say, yes, I did. And there are many of such people. And this is where media suppliers sometimes get surprised and say, oh, how come this paper has so many viewers and so many readers when we have got more newspapers? To me, my impression is the market, particularly the users, have not been educated about definitions. What we measure, my impression is, especially readership, is different from what some users are expecting and reading. And it's not for the research to correct. Remember, ZAMPS is done for media, for businesses, for advertisers. And those are the guys who own the study. They have to engage the organization that commissions research, which is ZAP, and not us. We're research agents. We can be fired anytime. So for as long as ZAP says they are happy with what we're doing, like we've presented, and ZAP says well done, and everybody present was asked for questions, and no questions came up. So to the researcher, that's a sign that we've delivered as expected. You see, according to our research, the word dominant becomes a problematic word because it can mean different things. According to the research we do, which measures readership, which means the percentage of Zimbabweans that have been exposed to any daily newspaper, for example. And exposure means even if you're sitting in a combi, in a taxi, if you see a headline when you're in a combi, according to the definition, you've read a newspaper. Right? If you borrow someone's paper, you've read a newspaper. It has no relationship with the buying. So in terms of exposure to Zimbabweans, the paper that has remained the most popular for that is the Herald. And I can assure you, even if you repeat your own study, if you get any foreigner to come and repeat the study, using the same methodology that we're using, I am 95% confident that you get the same result, that the Herald is the most exposed paper, is the paper that is read by most people. It does not say it's purchased by most people. And as I've said in the presentation, if you ask me a different question and say, which paper do you think is the most loved? It is probably not the Herald. It also depends on where you are. There are other papers that we are picking that are loved for different reasons. But our research is saying, if you put 10 Zimbabweans there, majority of them will tell you, I've been exposed to the Herald, and that we stand by. Yeah, you would have seen from the presentation that the cell phone penetration, for example, is very high. It's in the 90s. That's where we've now classified cell phones together with basics like soap and margarine. It's very high. Internet penetration is also very high. It's 30-something. It's actually 40% in the urban areas. So people have access to these digital platforms. But from a news and information point of view, my observation is people see news. Right? So these gadgets reach people very, very easily. But the question is, people still want confirmation before they act on what they've received. And this is where I am picking that digital platforms are very good for reaching people. But people have that question mark to say, I've seen this thing on my WhatsApp. Is this true? So for me to believe that is true, I still have to watch it on news on TV, or I still have to read a newspaper. If I see it, then I know it is true. So for where we are, there is some degree of mistrust, if you ask me, about social media. So it doesn't mean it doesn't work. For creating awareness is done. But products and services are not sold by awareness. They are sold by usage. People have got to use. And I think digital platforms still have some work to do. Yes, my general recommendation to ZAMPS users is that, number one, you must know that any research that does not bring surprise is not worth it. Why should you do research when you know the answer? If you look at ZAMPS and you get surprised, Mr. Colin Moxham, who is the Chief Executive Officer for ZAF, together with his committees, the technical committee, the educational committee, are available always to take any stakeholders through what they do through their product called ZAMPS. So my recommendation is, if you've seen the results, whether you're doing well or you're not doing well, you have got to come and engage ZAF and say, we need to understand more. Because either way, it's a problem. If you are a number one and ZAF says you're number one, don't sit in your organization. By me, you're still underutilizing the results. Come back and understand more. How do I continue to be number one? An emphatic number one, not mediocre number ones that I see in some sectors, where you are used by 30-something or 20-something Zimbabweans and you're number one. You can't celebrate. You must be used by more than 50%. So you need to come and engage the study some more and understand. There's a lot of misunderstanding about the study. And if you ask me, I am extremely surprised that literate as we are as Zimbabwe, but I don't see many people engaging the product and say, you know what, I want to know more. What is easy for people is to look at the result and say, but why have I not grown? Therefore, I'm unhappy with these ZAMPS, and that's what they spread. But surprisingly, we still see the same people at the next presentation.